Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggles, stories, and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Oh my goodness gracious, I'm excited because we have Basel Nassar, the owner of Boss Nation. I should let you guys know that we're locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. We got to throw that in there. My name is James Kademan, entrepreneur, author, speaker, and helpful coach to small business owners across the country. But today we're going to learn about Boss Nation, which is kind of exciting because as we can see, this is all about dogs. And I'll just let you take it from here, Basel. How about you tell us just what is Boss Nation?
Sure. Well, we launched Boss Dog was our first brand pillar under Boss Nation in 2019.
Okay.
And it was my first venture into the pet specialty channel. And in about 36 months, we introduced two brand pillars, both Boss Dog and Boss Cat, where we focus on producing a line of ultra premium meals, treats, supplements, and hard goods for both dogs and cats.
Oh, wow. All right. And I imagine you're a pet guy.
Yeah, I'm a pet guy. I mean, I'm a serial entrepreneur, by nature. I've been building brands for over 30 years. Prior to Boss Dog and Boss Cat, I was in the Greek yogurt segment for humans for about 20 years, and we scaled a pretty large company. We were a little over 300 million in street consumption rate by the time we ended up selling. Then I was acquired in 2010 by Hain Celestial, and they were a large natural and organic food concern. And for 8 years, I was given the privilege of running their refrigerated division. And what that afforded me was a lot of expertise in learning how to infuse probiotics into foods, a variety of foods from dairy bases to plant-based. So I took that knowledge and all that years of experience in yogurt and infusion, and we adopted what we're doing in human, and now we've translated into pet solutions. So focused on digestive health mainly.
All right. Well, let's start way back when you first started. So we're talking 30 plus years ago.
Sure.
What made you decide to start your own business versus just getting a typical day job?
I think the common answer is I got tired of making other people money.
All right.
Yeah, I had an accounting background initially, and then just by chance, I ended up getting into operations and running a spice and soup facility in Washington State.
Oh, wow.
I enjoyed it, and decided that, I could probably do this on my own. So, I ventured in a few different industries and learned everything from finance, accounting, all the way up to plant operations, and, even as granular as driving forklifts, and so that was 10, 15 years of that. And then I ended up partnering with a couple of gentlemen in Washington State in early 2000. And that's when we started our first national brand build. And then at that point, once you get the taste of entrepreneurialism, it's hard to go back, especially if you're successful.
Oh, very true. Very true. So is this that first business was in yogurt?
First business was actually in energy bars.
Oh, really? Okay.
Energy bar venture a long time ago. And then, but my most recent was yogurt for humans. And so we got in front of the Greek yogurt phenomenon in early 2000.
I was just going to say, you rode that wave right at the beginning.
Yeah, we were the second Greek yogurt in the US after the Greek supplied source. And, there was a window of opportunity in early 2000, and we didn't have deep pockets. It was just three young Greek guys in their early 20s trying to figure out how to, at the time we were making hummus, would you believe? And then just pivoted into Greek yogurt because it was a much easier market segment entry.
All right.
And we just did that for years. We still look back on that as probably one of the more proactive and profitable business we've ever run. It almost made, not to say that it was easy, but timing was perfect. The margins were ideal, and we didn't have a 400 SKU base, and so it was really easy to manage the business to scale.
Yeah.
I can't say the same about alcohol and spirits, which I was in for about 2 years, and then now pet. Some of the highest barriers of entry I've ever seen. So it's really not for the timid in these new.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the alcohol, I can see that being tough to get into.
Yeah.
Or at least tough to expand. A lot of laws seem pretty archaic from what I've seen that just prevent a lot of things that to me seem logical from happening. But yeah, I guess I'm not in that business. I've just from other people I've interviewed. It's challenging.
I always tell people with liquor, it's easy to sum it up with there's 10 feet of space on the wall and you're trying to convince somebody why you belong next to Jim Beam and Jack Daniels. You know,
All right.
just market entries, very, very hard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell me, so when you're starting this, the energy bars,
Sure.
are you just making those in your kitchen or are you, tell me about that business?
That was a long time ago. You know, I think we've evolved from a innovation standpoint. You know, that back in those days, it was, you know, kitchen formulation, kitchen economics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nowadays, you know, we have a regulatory team, great development group that I work with, both internal and third party. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not easy because especially in the game I'm in today, everyone's trying to romance protein for pets. And
Yeah. Well, they romance protein for humans for long
yeah,
enough. So they had to expand a little bit.
so
Somebody, I'm trying to think where I saw that. Someone made a comment about the protein craze for humans seem like we're all starving cavemen and we just need protein somehow. Yeah, there's people that aren't really doing anything to justify that protein intake. They're just sitting on the couch, whatever.
yeah, yeah, you
So
know, you need to move a little.
yeah, interesting.
But that's been the challenge, you know, is you're trying to add value in a market where there's a lot of me too. And so to be able to fill your innovation pipeline with stuff that's really going to not necessarily be disruptive, but
Mhm.
bring value to either a segment, the popular segment, that's the real challenge. And it takes time to get like, so I don't innovate in any way today like I used to, you know, 30 years ago. It's a
All right. Just
problem.
no, why is that? Because it's more difficult or
Well,
because it's just you're tired?
uh, you don't want to get it wrong, you know.
Yeah,
So
right.
I mean, I've been privy to like national survey studies, you know, where you send your product in, they give you a grade. I've seen highly successful products go into those survey studies with terrible grades, and I would go, you know,
Mm,
what are you guys thinking?
right.
And then I've seen them get it right, you know. So I think anytime you take a concept to market, if you do it right, you're building inventory. B, you're putting out a marketing program and a go-to-market strategy, and it's not cheap. So
No.
I always say, you know, every entry for me is, you know, well over $250,000 entry point. So it's you want to get those things right. You want to do your trials, your studies, and so things that you don't think about 30 years ago when you're just, you know, ambitious and you just want to get to market. And
Right.
it is you're going with your gut. Well, we still go with our gut, but we go with our gut with a little intelligence now.
All right. It's just experience. I imagine that helps.
Yeah.
The is it you or do you have business partners?
This particular venture, I'm on my own. So I ended up handpicking some senior executives who've been with me for over 15 years.
Nice.
And they ended up coming in, helping me run my marketing teams, my back office. And, you know, we've got people that have worked with us from ground up from day one on more than one venture. So you know, I'm very fortunate to have a great group of people
Yeah.
where I'm at today with Adam.
You know what's interesting that I'm gathering so far from speaking with you, compared to some of the other people that I've spoken to, I don't know, these past few weeks really that I've interviewed. I've run across some people that were not, they were very nice people and they were smart about the certain industry that they were in. But from a business savvy point of view, they seem to be more passionate about whatever it is they were doing rather than profitable.
Mm.
And I think maybe the passion got in the way of the profit because they wanted to do this thing, you know, make the world a better place, which is cool. But that blinded them from actually accomplishing some goals to expand. And
Yeah.
talking with you, it sounds like you're just like, how can we figure out how to expand?
Well, no,
That's I guess it's more profit, less passion, which is not a bad thing.
it can be dangerous to have too much passion without the pocketbook, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because you can grow yourself out of business. And I think if there was one message that I would want what I would want to resonate today would be clearing the financial gap when you're building a brand. It's an extraordinary hurdle, and a lot of groups, so that's why they typically fail.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, you know, measuring your growth is critical. I almost chuckle anymore today when I talk to people that, you know, that are evaluating my growth from the outside looking in at my business. And
Okay.
you cannot look at what happened the last 2 years. I mean, in all reality, you can't look at it
Right.
because as a legacy brand, the last 2 years in pet, you killed it. I mean, it was a great opportunity for new households that were acquiring pets.
Huge.
Yeah, and so, but as a new brand, a startup, it was a death curse. You know, you're curbside shopping. There's nobody shopping the perimeter of the store, and so I'm thrilled that I even got through the last 2 years, because when I talk to other entrepreneurs, I'll spend all day talking about the financial gap. How about the pandemic gap that I had to get over
Mm-hmm.
and feed this financial machine, because it was really, you couldn't get listings, you couldn't get distribution. I mean, it was virtually standstill. So
Right.
that's the biggest challenge. And then unforeseens like what we just went through. You know, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, startup or otherwise.
Yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess.
Yeah.
My particular business did well. I mean, it was just purely accidental. It was right business, right time.
Sure.
And it's like we did well, but we could have just as easily been in a business that had a bad day.
Or just
Could
starting
have
out.
very easily. It's interesting because I talk to some entrepreneurs, they're like, we nailed it because we're so smart. And I'm like, you're in a certain industry that just about everyone in that industry did great. So don't pat your back too hard.
Right.
And other people, you're in restaurants or something like that, you know, it's not necessarily your fault, where a lot of times outside of that, if you didn't do so hot, you could totally say it was their fault. But it's just wrong industry, wrong time versus right industry, right time. It's
and then just timing, right? I mean,
yeah.
regardless of the industry, it's anytime I mean, unless you were in sanitizers. If you're turning the light on January 2020, I'm sorry, you were at a standstill. Just people taking calls. But yeah, I mean, well, look, we got over it. We're here. I know a lot of other folks in the game didn't make it, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm almost looking at this as my first year in business, even though this is our fourth year, James.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. Totally understand. So tell me, when you got into this business, was the idea, I guess the reason that you got in this business, was it because you saw potential, or because you had ideas that you wanted to see them through? Or what was the driving force, or the main driving force?
I'll tell you, every time I get into a new industry or I launch a new brand, it's time spent with myself, thinking about where trends are going, where my passions are. And at the time, that particular time, I went from zero to, a house full of animals. And there were a lot of circumstances that led to that, personal ones. So that, in conjunction with being in the human game for as long as I was, looking at what was happening in pet, looking at the growth in certain segments, and the fact that there wasn't a digestive health leader, I felt that there was a great opportunity for us there. So that was originally what kind of got us going. And then, I launched with a Greek frozen yogurt. So, I mean, it was a great entry point. I had, a great fair amount of credibility with 20 years of Greek yogurt for humans. And then, but the objective on day one was purely market share acquisition. I told everybody on the first day, all the naysayers, that we were going to be 2 brand pillars and over 13 segments in under 3 years. And we did just that.
Wow.
13 brand segments, 450,000 points of distribution, and 2 brand pillars. And we're, as I said earlier, looking at this as our first year in business. So.
That's cool. So let me talk or ask you about marketing.
Sure.
Because marketing business like this, you're essentially trying to get on the shelf in places, stores or website, figurative shelf, right? Where people are shopping. Because I imagine before your brand is known, people have to stumble upon you or find you through advertising. So how do you get on the shelves of all these places?
Yeah, every industry obviously has a different framework. So pet is carved into a variety of different channels. Pet specialty is what I'm going to call your brick and mortar mom pa, up and down the street. A lot of door knocking, but a tremendous amount of business, great following, great advocates to build brands, especially raw food concepts like what we're doing.
All right.
And then you start seeing, of course, the .com channel. Then you start looking at the larger big box models within pet, and then you start looking at your CPG, natural independent. So it's a very particular industry in that you have to be very channel disciplined. because if you start in the wrong channel, you'll likely not be able to make moves into other channels.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's a different approach. So this is a channel strategy driven approach
okay.
where I'm focused on achieving, what we call max ACV or a lot of market share in this channel before I end up making my moves. But we do it intelligently because we're big supporters of the independent business model.
Mm-hmm.
I think over the last 2 years, you saw a pretty swift move to .com, and we're not saying that's not a good model or good channel to be in. I'm just seeing, I see too many small independents close doors, and I still think there's great value when you walk into a pet store. Excuse me, my table dropped.
No.
And go to a pet store, and you're able to go in and ask the employee for input.
All right.
You ever walked into a human store, the most that you'll ask somebody is, where's the bread aisle? And then once you
Right.
get there, you'll figure it out. When you walk into a pet store, it's a lot of Q&A. I have a sick dog, I have an aging dog, I have a new puppy, what should I feed them? And so there's a lot of education that goes on at brick and mortar that I just don't think you can get online. So we're very focused to that channel today.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm trying to think when we first got our first dog. I remember going to the store, those decent sized store in the Midwest here. They have a few branches, whatever. I went there and I got a cart, and I was just like, okay, I got to buy everything I need for my dog.
Yeah.
And there's a girl that helped me. She just walked around. Okay, you're going to need this, that, and the other thing, whatever. They had a checklist. And it's interesting that you say that, because I can't imagine going online and doing that same thing and being as productive in the short amount of time.
I think online tools are great for, reordering if staple items, but if you want, items of any specific uniqueness, you still have to typically go to the store.
And just texture the leash and
yeah, exactly.
length. I mean, the little clips and buckles, how they do their little thing. And
That's
even once we got the dog, figuring out what treats she liked, it was a lot easier to figure out what treats she likes when she can try them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I totally see a space for brick and mortar, and especially something like this. And it helps that we can bring our dog into the store. So it's kind of fun.
To expand on your marketing question, I can tell you that we've done different approaches over the years. I've always been very fond of what I call spoon to mouth marketing.
Okay.
So it's store level. It's literally product to mouth. Well, it's a little different when you're in pet, because now I'm trying to convince the consumer to buy the product for the pet.
Right.
And you can't sample the consumer, you can sample the pet. And oftentimes pets don't want to be treated in an environment where they're unaccustomed, or they're getting the treat from somebody new.
Right.
Oftentimes it doesn't result in the same way as if you were giving it to the human. So, we still do some spoon to mouth marketing at trade events. A lot of the marketing is now done digitally. But I'm a real big believer of up and down the street still. So all my team members, including myself, visit pet stores.
All right.
Even during the height of COVID, everybody was all decked out, but we were in the stores and figuring out what we needed to do to be relevant. And
all right.
I think if you're going to build in this industry, you need to be willing to put some foot traffic in.
Yeah, I think that goes for a lot of businesses or a lot of industries. Tell me the sequence of getting into these places. You mentioned that there's a certain sequence, otherwise you're kind of blocked. How did you figure out what that sequence was?
I visited over 1,500 pet stores.
Okay, that's quite a few. All right.
Yeah, it's just a massive amount of door knocking.
Every
is different. CPG, you can usually do a headquarter call for 50 to 100 stores. And you're doing a headquarter call for 1 to 2 stores. So,
all right.
It's still a relationship-based industry. So you're not purely data-driven. Whereas, in the past, you have 3 feet of space. What are you going to do for me?
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh yeah, you guys have a great origin story. We love where your products come from and all this and that. That's probably been the bigger challenge, because there's a lot of romancing that goes on at the store level that takes time. But it's an incremental gain business, but it just takes a tremendous amount of time, and you really need your own team to do it.
All right.
Because to rely on reps outside of your internal framework, they have too many brands in their bags. You think I was just at a global in Orlando, and there's over 4,000 new kibble concepts. So
4,000.
yeah, so it's just everybody's coming out with something, again, another twist on protein. And
Right.
now you're a distributor rep and you're going in, you got 400 brands and 15,000 SKUs, and you're trying to get Joe the buyer, who's busy in the back grooming standard poodle, to listen to you for 10 minutes. So how many brands are you going to get through? So those are the biggest challenges to building exposure to your brand. It's just getting
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
What do the different managers, wherever you need to say yes, what are they looking for? Are they looking for a unique product or high margin or maybe combination? What are they looking for?
I think I've seen the pet industry is very sensitive to margin, as they should be, because the cost of overhead in a lot of these stores is particularly high. You have specialized people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more than anything, they want the product origin story, the why and the where. Why is it good for pets, and where did the product ingredients come from? And so if you notice right behind me, we're doing our where quality and quantity matter campaign, where we talk,
Okay.
how we're focused on not just introducing probiotics into our products. We can stand behind the claim 1 billion probiotics at the end of shelf life per cup. And to be able to substantiate that, I'm finding is resonating really well with retailers. They want a story and they want support.
All right. To help differentiate your product from anything else.
Yeah. If you're Willie and Wanda Pet Store and you're competing against the mass market down the road and then the .com, you want a value added solution that's a destination draw for your store. So I think that's first and foremost in pet specialty, and then it's just the relationship.
All right. Nice. It's interesting that you say that, because I remember going to the pet store and I'm like, okay, I need dog food. And I bet they had, I don't remember if it was 3 or 4 aisles and different size bags, different size things. And here's chicken, fish, beef, whatever. And I'm just like, wow. I don't know. And I was thinking, well, it's your dogs. You don't want to just get it necessarily on price only, because I feel like that's just sawdust, even though I don't know. And I don't want to get the crazy pricey stuff, because the crazy pricey stuff is crazy. So it's just one of those, like, I'm trying to differentiate the different bags from each other.
Not as
I had a really hard time with that. Really hard time.
Yeah, no, it's a lot easier for us. We just go to the store, we go to the butcher section, and you order your fish, you order your lean cut of meat, and you're out, And so I think, as a consumer, you want to look for products that are protein first, so you're getting the meat first.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you're a fish protein, be a fish protein, don't be fish and then have chicken meal in it as well.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, these are just common knowledge things that I've learned in the last 5 years. And then, we have to formulate everything in accordance to a governing body. So it's not as if we're out just willy-nilly putting pet foods to market. So there's a governing body called AFCO that sets the criteria for what a complete meal is, or what defines a treat or a supplement. So anybody that's doing this is, following those rules. It's in fact far more difficult to launch a product in pet than it is human.
Is it really?
Far more difficult.
Wow. No, is it because of the rules of some kind, or I guess, tell me why.
I'll tell you in under 10 seconds. In our human world, you're FDA, USDA compliant. So as long as your ingredient lists and your processing methods meet that criteria, you're good. In pet, it's the same. However, you need to meet a state level examination review. So even if you're already compliant at, let's say, the federal level, you have to go through all 50 states and every year pay to have a renewed license in your state for your product. And that's for every individual SKU. And where it gets complicated is, let's say, for example, this is real business talk right now. You print 500,000 preform pouches. And on that preform pouch, you have all your legal declarations, and there's an asterisk at the bottom. 48 of the states are fine with the asterisk. 2 states have a problem with it. You got to reprint all your packaging before they'll give you compliance. So there's steps that you have to take to ease the economic burden of having this state level compliance. by like doing digital printing versus flexo
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. But that's the complication, and it's frustrating because it can be as simple as a bolding of a letter, and there's really no appreciation for what an entrepreneur goes through just to get that product to market. And now
Right.
my asterisk is in the wrong place, and so but that was a huge frustration for me coming into pet, just having to deal with the state level examiners and them interpreting things differently, because I think there should be one standard rule,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. It seems so. Did you initially only distribute in a few states to limit that?
No,
Or
I went right to market. So we were national within less than a year. We went
okay.
all 14 distribution centers, and now we're in about 450,000 points of
All
distribution.
right.
So one SKU qualifies as one point of distribution in my mind. And I come from a world where I had a one SKU of yogurt that was the number one SKU in America for 10 years.
Wow. All right.
And so people always say to me, well, how can you look at one SKU as one point of distribution? Well, if you have one Coca-Cola can,
Mm-hmm.
the original Coke, or back in the day, a Twinkie, let's say, you only needed the one core SKU to drive velocity and be relevant on a shelf. So
Mm-hmm.
if you innovate quality SKUs, then each SKU should contribute, a portion of that point. And so I've
Right.
always been a big advocate of each individual SKU plays a big part in growing your business.
Dang. That is crazy. You mentioned distribution. So are there only a few distributors or warehouses, whatever, that are sending to the different pet stores and stuff like that?
It's a good question. Uh, Generally speaking, most of the distribution framework is either regional or national, and that goes
Okay.
to say, I think, with any industry really. There's typically
Mm-hmm.
one or two national players and then guys that handle regional pockets. That's no different in pet. We work with both the nationals and the regionals. I'm just very particular about crossing territory. I like to walk into a sales meeting, for a distributor and say, this is your territory. Go after it, as opposed to you're competing with two other distributors in the same market.
Oh, gotcha.
So we try to, be conscientious of that as we
Okay.
build our business.
I imagine also from the store's end, they don't want to deal with 50 million vendors. They want to deal with 10 or
Yep.
something like that, because trucks come and go and you don't want to be able to have the guy with his station wagon and 3 bags of food
Mhm.
in the way of the semi trailer or something like that. So, but I imagine that's a game in and of itself, getting a distributor to distribute your product, right?
You're playing a number of games all the time. I think the first one is getting the sale in. So
All
once the
right.
sale occurs, now it's up to the distributor, up to us to produce the product, right? And get it to distribution. I think where the gap occurs in any growth game or any growth model is getting the new metric in
Mm-hmm.
place so that you know what you're buying for and what you're producing for. And so, I know for 3 years I was in the dark. I had to just literally gut instinct how much of this to bring in and how much of that, for fear that it was going to shrink out
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, or not have enough of it. And I think that's been the biggest challenge in pet is it's such an ebb and flow industry where you get these real high highs on promo, and then you get this where it'll kind of stagnate for a while. And I've always told people, I said it's a game where you either have to make an extraordinary investment. An extraordinary investment in pet is not $5 million to enter. That's nothing. Extraordinary.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've already done well over that. The extraordinary investment in pet is going out and changing the landscape. So you're taking a kibble and bits format. For how many years can we remember we just fed our pets kibble?
Yeah.
And now you're seeing the innovation start to push all of these different segments out in the store. Freezers. You never saw pet stores with freezers before.
Mm-mm.
I've seen stores now with 26 doors of freezers or more.
Wow.
So it's either the landscape is going to expand to support the innovation to let a brand like me in, or the other brands that are already there have to mess up.
All right. All right.
And it's just the reality of the world that we're in, and you see some brands either skip a beat or fail or make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You find an entry point, or you see a massive expansion. And we saw that like when Greek yogurt really took the world by storm. Our the sets, which were consistent with two major brands, were 20, 25-foot sets, grew
Yeah.
to 40 to 50 to 80-foot sets now if you walk in a grocery store. So
Yeah.
landscape invested in the innovation. Okay. And now we're all waiting for pet to do that so we can promote the growth.
All right. Interesting. Yeah, it's so funny talking about this because I remember the first time my wife brought home Greek yogurt. I was just like, what's the difference between this and just yogurt?
Yeah.
But it was, I remember you go down the grocery store aisle or the yogurt aisle, whatever, and Greek used to be this thing, and then it was half the store seemingly. Bizarre. Margins seem better on it. Yeah, so it's cool.
And pet with raw right now, raw food meals.
All right.
Segments we're in, there's tremendous growth, so it's
I had a student in my business planning class, I don't know, this had to be 3-4 years ago. She was putting together raw food for dogs locally. And what blew my mind was that it was per meal in the neighborhood of $6 that she was selling to people. And I was thinking, people pay $6 a meal for their dog? To me, that was crazy.
Babies and pets are premium spends.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was crazy. I should check in and see where she's at, but that was the thing. And even at that, her margins are pretty low because she just wasn't scaling. It was her in her kitchen essentially.
People prep down, meals now for their pets like they do for themselves. We have assembly line here where we prep at night for the next day. And
all right,
pets are family now.
That's true. That's fair. That's very true. Very true. Tell me, what made you decide to get into both cats and dogs?
Well, we have cats. We have 4 dogs, 2 cats, and a 140-pound tortoise here at the ranch. And we think we've got a couple more beautiful animals coming. So we have this ranch declaration here in Boss Ranch where we showcase our new animals every couple times a year. So we have a surprise coming for you guys.
Nice.
My wife's trying to convince us to bring in a couple more. But cat just seemed like an obvious transition for us. I felt, like if we can do it for dogs, why not for cats? And, pet households, during COVID, we're up, I think 13, 14 million.
Yeah.
The rate of cats in homes in Asia has skyrocketed. And so we do a lot of international business. So I just saw a need, James, and so we decided to innovate it. And then April of 21, I think we introduced our first cat formula.
All right.
Yeah. So it's different market approach than dog, slightly smaller market, but growing at an extraordinary rate.
Nice.
Yeah.
You mentioned this before about the offerings kind of self-sustaining or branching out. Your brand reminds me of Under Armour, or something they start in their thing and then expand out and try to throw their tag on everything, which just uplifts the brand as a whole. Or I guess any other big brand, right? Similar in that regard. So I imagine if I go to a pet store and I see Boss Nation Food, Boss Nation Treats, Boss, I'm just inundated with that brand. I'm going to assume that it's a good brand.
I wanted a lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
Walk in the store, and whether it was a collar and leash or a simple protein treat or a raw milk drizzle, I wanted you to be able to go to every specific segment, treat, supplements, meals, or hard goods.
Yeah.
Real innovation. So that's why we expanded the way that we did. But, quite frankly, I'm not trying to be a job shop for everything pet. I'm really trying to focus on what I think we can do really well for the pets that we're catering to. Like, for example, my hard gear line, Boss Tactical, you won't want to put that on a dog under 40 pounds. It's a very heavier, hardier, premium nylon, gunmetal steel clips. You want 50-pound dogs and up for that. So
sure,
I'm not trying to be everything for everyone with respect to the brand offerings.
All right. How do you figure out with that much variety? How do you figure out what you're going to offer?
Well, we have our base. You have your base meals, your base treats and supplements. So I'm at a point where I've already done a lot of the innovation. So Now it's extensions on the existing segments. Very rarely do we have failures, but as soon as we've identified one, we'll pull it out and substitute it with something else that we think will do better.
Okay.
And, generally, within a few months, James, whether or not you have an item that's going to resonate or not.
I suppose.
Pretty quick, the consumer tells you right away.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about the team that you have? Because I imagine you got sales, you got marketing, you got the packaging people, the product developers on the food side, treat side, and then the hard goods side. That sounds like a small, if not medium-sized army.
Yeah, so the team that I have came over from the old group. So, I'm dealing, like, for example, my back office is run by a young lady named Tammy, and Tammy's been with me for 15 years. Tammy probably can run 3 departments extremely efficiently, from logistics to receivables, payables, and then just manage the team in the order entry side of the business. But she's just a extraordinarily high performer.
All right.
You don't find people like that very often, hence the reason why she's been with me as long as she has. Another individual, my head of marketing, Shay Russo, same situation. She juggles multiple balls. So everybody, is multiple department mentality. And has a lot of experience in doing this. And then we have some new people that we've brought from within the industry, and they're all starting to learn our cadence a little bit. But I'm, very thankful in my retention. I think I've lost one person, and it wasn't. It was purely a moving out of state situation. People, love working for us. I'm a big believer in letting people operate independently. Here's the goal. Go out and get it done. And, at the end of the quarter, we'll talk about what went wrong and what we need to do better. But I'm not a micromanager. I'm a big believer in independent activity.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you guys have one location where everybody's housed, or are they all over the place?
So all the warehouse, we have 2 warehouses where we facilitate some pick and pack, but it's not our mainstay. Most of our business is handled outside of third-party distributors. I'd say 95% of it. Up in Bellingham, Washington.
Okay.
We've got 2 offices and 2 warehouses up there where we handle pick and pack. And then I have my sales team remote. So I've got a group back on the East Coast. I have a regional team here on the West Coast. And then I typically just work myself up and down the West Coast between the 2 offices once a month.
All right. Nice.
Prior to this, our old group, we had 40 people, and all 40 of us were remote.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We had a Starbucks back office that was a Seattle meeting point, and we go to a restaurant, but it became where the talent that we were finding was outside of the walls and or outside the state, and so we ended up having to just do this model where everybody could work essentially from. I've always said it's the suitcase entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Work from anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good thing to be. Very good thing to be.
Yeah.
Fun. Tell me about the manufacturing. Do you guys manufacture it, or do you contract it out?
So I qualify all the manufacturers with our head of regulatory, Dr. Mo, and we basically find a facility, qualify it, and then they do our co-pack. Very rarely will you see in this game full vertical integration.
Right.
It's too expensive. And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it takes too long to get to scale in that plant, James. There are very few brands that can drive, let's say, enough kibble through one plant to qualify their own facility. So there are a handful of really good co-packers out there, and we're very pleased to be working with some of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I interviewed, even just yesterday, I interviewed a guy he's selling food to grocery stores, prepackaged food. And the scale, or that hurdle that you have to get over to go when you're just local versus getting national and being able to process that is without contracting out is, I don't want to say impossible, but it's certainly costly. So, and then once you get the equipment that can do that, if you're not keeping it busy, then it seems kind of a waste of money.
Yeah, that's obviously a challenge for everybody, getting ahead of the inventory build. Then here, let me give you one that will really.
Yeah.
So I do bring some product over from overseas.
Mhm.
And with the time that it takes to get on the boat, the amount of time on the water, the customs clearance now, and then the time to bring it into warehouse, you could be carrying your inventory for upwards of 180-day cash flow.
Wow.
So a lot of people that are even just trying to get into the game, it's just such a cash gap that it's so hard to, like, we got an order in the other day that was extraordinary that would have taken quite a bit to pre-fund it,
Oh.
so we had to make some moves, but again, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Mhm.
But it's a reality of all of us startups, trying to get through that gap.
Yeah, there's a shell game sometimes. Sometimes you get that sale that you're like, that's incredible. How do I do it?
How am I going to pay for it? Yeah.
Or just, yeah, kind of, there's the whole timeline. So yeah, I completely understand that. So I guess we're winding up on time a little bit, but I want to talk to you about business in general or broadly. You've been in business for a long time, decades, and you've done some crazy awesome things. So what are some broad things that you've learned in business that you think most entrepreneurs should know and may not know when they first start out?
Well, I know I was probably guilty of this in the beginning, thinking that, surrounding myself with a bunch of partners was the way to go. But in fact, if you know what you're doing, you're better off on your own.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a partner, make sure they're willing to work as hard. So that was, I think, my first lesson. And then it's always, because the problem is when you get to the place where you've realized the business, it's really hard to look at all your hard work get segregated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is, I guess not to be too ambitious with new concepts. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten phone calls from people that have Uncle Joe's barbecue sauce that everybody in the neighborhood swears by, and and I don't discourage people like that. I just try to explain to them what the cost of entry is going to be and how many no's you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
But brand building in a consumable space, has its challenges.
Yeah.
Dictate a new pattern of eating or change a certain thought perspective, where I've never really been in the services game where I sell services. So I can really only speak to what it takes to build brands and actual tangibles.
Sure. Fair.
My big ones,
All right.
surround yourself with the right people and try to bring products to market that you can generally get excited about beyond just what your family tells you.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Tell me, where did the name come from?
Oh, Boss Dog. Boy, that was, here's one where you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to run ideation sessions on brand names. But we've always done it just with a collective group of people over dinner. And this was one where it took a few weeks. And by the time we ended up getting there, it seemed like the obvious move. And we were thrilled that we were able to secure the trademarks for both
Nice.
and Boss Cat. So
all right.
I think it speaks, very clearly. Any pet can be a boss, whether you're a
Right.
little guy or a big guy, a dog or a cat, so
Mhm.
our motto is treat your pet like a boss.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I forgot to ask you this. Big box stores. I have interviewed some people where working with their distributors and their clients and all that kind of stuff. We're going great. Then they get the big box order that's multiplying their business by 10.
Yep.
And then the big boxes beat them up on price. And I know of one person I interviewed where the business had to fold because they got so beat up.
Yeah.
So tell me, have you worked with big boxes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
how has that been?
Yeah, I've done a lot of business in Arkansas. I've done a lot of business in Issaquah. So
All right.
I can say that we've done a lot of club business, and the mentality's changed. So when we started in the game, it was a far more cutthroat in and out.
Okay.
Whereas you might get into one of these big box format stores, and if you didn't meet the hurdle rate, you were gone.
All right.
It was suicide for an entrepreneur because you had
$1
million in packaging. I know they're a lot more sensitive to that now, and they don't want their business to constitute more than 10% of your overall business. At least that's been.
Oh.
because of what's happened, in the past. But I can tell you, when you're ready to make the move, into big box format,
Yeah.
what I've done in the past is I've done it regionally. And so, typically they want a national campaign for a national planogram, but typically you can dictate a regional rollout. So Q1, 2, 3, 4 rollout.
Okay.
That helps a little bit with the cash need.
Yeah.
But go and read the old Walmart story on the Vlasic pickle, and it basically will reiterate everything that you just said to me about, young company goes in, gets price squeezed. And that was many years ago, on how Vlasic became so dependent on this format that they weren't able to pull out, even though margins and pricing concessions have been squeezed. And so,
all right, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a great story,
because that's a brand that I know.
Yeah, but I will say this to you at the same time. I've seen big box format change our business overnight in an extremely positive way.
I bet.
I bet. Literally from mediocrity to full scaled company overnight. And so I have more positive to say about them than I ever would negative.
Fair. Totally fair. I mean, they have an audience. So, and in the end, you need an audience to sell your product. So,
well, we're not selling luxury cars. So we're not trying to get the margin book per unit. We're trying to drive volume.
Right. And routine, I imagine, right? Every week Absolutely. Or month, whatever. So it's a routine residual purchase. So I love it.
Once you get it in, maintain and sustain your spot, because someone else is always creeping behind you to take it.
Yeah, very true. So very true. Tell me, what do you expect for your business in the next 3-5 years down the road?
Well, we're positioned for growth right now. We're at a XXX growth rate every 13 weeks. So it's almost as if it's a brand new company I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
So part of it is just kind of, like I said, this is brand new for us, in that we're really being recognized as a brand new company for the first time. The only difference between now and 2 years ago, I'm not in front of a pandemic, and I have 13 segments as opposed to 2 segments when I started. So we really have a story. So growth, you're going to see just a tremendous amount of growth. I'm hitting all the trade show circuits again. Finally, we got trade shows, so yeah, I mean,
in person.
Just getting international leads. You don't do it over the phone. You do it eye to eye, handshake, or fist pound, whatever it is now. And
right.
I don't know how to grow a business from the back seat of my office. I think that I give people great credit that can stay home and build an enterprise, but I haven't figured out how to do it.
Maybe software based services.
Yeah, but not in our game.
Yeah, not for tangible stuff. I don't know. No, even service like what I'm trying to sell, boots on the ground.
Yep, networking.
Yeah, it's relationship is what it comes down to, and that's very tough to have on a computer.
Don't be surprised if you see multiple brand pillars over the next couple of years. There's some other areas that we think we can bring digestive health support. Nice.
All right.
It's going to be very focused growth, and hope you hear about us.
I'm excited to. Now I'm going to ask you a question that has nothing to do with business, but this is just me not knowing the answer to it. And you probably, it's your world. What are probiotics, or when you see, how do you package probiotics alone?
Oh, so you can take probiotics just as a supplement. They can either encapsulate them, or you can get them in a frozen state, or a powder.
Right.
So,
when you buy them wholesale, are you getting them as a powder?
No, I bring them. My probiotics come in frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just our particular type of probiotic.
Yeah.
We have to introduce them to the medium at the right time. So it's
all right.
Growth, and you don't want to kill them off. So processes like where we put our freeze dried product through freeze drying and HPP, high pressure pasteurization.
All right.
There's a time and a place and a type of probiotic to introduce during that to get survivability, or you'll kill them all off. So
all right. And I should know this. Is it bacteria, or a special kind of bacteria, or what is a probiotic?
Good bacteria for the microbiome.
Okay.
the area in your digestive tract that needs positive development.
Mhm.
There's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. You want the good bacteria to help promote digestion, passing food all the way through the colon-rectal system, as opposed to just getting caught up. I mean, without going into the details, you know, you eat a yogurt cup a day, and I guarantee you'll notice differences in the way your body performs.
All right. Very cool.
We see it now, but it really comes down to the level of probiotics. And that's why I was saying earlier, it's one thing just to say you put probiotics in your product, and another to be able to substantiate the quantity.
Oh.
We get calls all the time from people saying, my dog was eating a product with probiotics, but as soon as he switched gears, oh my gosh, all of a sudden this, and this change. And it's typically coat, breath, and stool.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And we even had one client in Chicago say, if your product's off the shelf, my dog won't make it through the weekend without it. Now, I'm not saying that the dog won't make it
quickly,
but that's great when you hear consumers say, you know, we've seen such benefit from your product that, you know, we don't want to make a 2-day substitution. So
yeah,
our company takes the liberty, it takes that stuff seriously, and we'll overnight the customer something. So
wow,
yeah,
that's cool. That is cool. That's impressive. That's very impressive.
Appreciate it. It's been a fun run. I have an amazing team, and I want to say, you know, the heavy lifting's over, but I think it's just begun. You know, we got a lot of headwind in front of us still.
That's I'm trying to think of the bodybuilder that said it. He says people don't look like me because nobody wants to lift any heavy ass weights.
Exactly.
So that's the name of the game, right? You hit it hard and you'll be successful. That's awesome.
Right? What's the saying? If it was easy, everyone would do it. So.
Yeah. Oh, so true. So true. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me, James. It was good fun.
Yeah. This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphs and successes of business owners across the land. We are underwritten locally by the Bank of Sun Prairie. If you're listening to this on the web or watching it, if you could do us a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, smash that big old thumbs up, and of course, comment and let us know what you thought. My name is James Kademan, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for service businesses across the country on the web at callsoncall.com, as well as Draw In Customers Business Coaching, offering business coaching services for entrepreneurs looking for growth on the web at drawincustomers.com. And of course, the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur and all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Basel, the owner of Boss Nation. Basel, I didn't ask you where people can find all your stuff.
BossDogBrand.com, BossCatBrand.com, or BossNationBrands.com.
Easy enough.
Yep.
I love it. Like a boss. This is perfect. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night. The podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.